go. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That is Nick Wright. That is Danny Kanell filling in for Cris Carter this morning, college football analyst extraordinaire.
Overall, shockingly,
overall, great
let me tell the audience something.
Tell
if
them.
They've never met Danny, if you only follow him on Twitter, shockingly, really good guy. As opposed to the Twitter persona, who, I'll be honest, I didn't like that much.
No,
but in person, I like Danny.
I don't even know if I like myself much on Twitter.
That is an interesting pot calling the kettle a different color. Hey, could we easily say that last night's baseball game was one of the best World Series games you've ever seen?
I mean, it was a great game. We've had a good run of them. Game 7 of last year's World Series on the short list. Last night, if people fell asleep, it was unbelievable.
An absolutely fantastic finish. A lot of people fell asleep because this one really only counted at the very, very end. All right, let's take a look. Game 2 of the World Series. This was a crazy one. So crazy, in fact, we are starting highlights in the 9th inning with the Dodgers leading 3-2. Astros tying it up right here when Marwin Gonzalez going deep to left center. Off one of the 9 pitchers the Dodgers used last night, we're tied at 3. Extra innings, here we go. Top 10, Jose Altuve, who may very well be the best player in baseball right now, ripping a solo shot off Josh Fields. 4-3 Houston. Next up, Carlos Correa. What do you think he does? Home run. It is now 5-3 Astros. Bottom 10, Noah Nan, Yasiel Puig, and he hits a home run. This one off Ken Giles, bringing the Dodgers within 1 run. And then I like this, the emphatic place down of the bat for dramatic effect. I hate that I had to explain that. Dodgers within 1, same inning, 2 outs. Runner on second, Kike Hernandez hitting a single to right. The throw from Josh Reddick does not beat Logan Forsythe to the plate. Dodgers even it up. It is 5-5. So we go to 11, no outs. Houston's George Springer also hits the home run. This one off the 2-1 pitch off Brandon McCarthy. It's now 7-5 Houston. He's fired up, but wait, there's more. Bottom 11, Dodgers got within 1 with yet another home run. Here we go. Yasiel Puig at the plate. Chris Davinsky delivers and gets him swinging to end the game. Astros win 7-6. They tie this series up at 1 game apiece. 8 home runs total in this one. And here is George Springer after the game.
That's a heck of a game right there, man. I mean, those guys over there, they fought back in the 10th. They hit some big homers early, and you know, our team was able to stay resilient and come out with this one.
All right, we said it to start. We'll say it again. That was one of the most exciting games I have ever watched, read a recap of, watched highlights, and then continued to do highlights of. Danny, what was your takeaway from this one?
I think the demise of baseball has been greatly exaggerated. I mean, this is exactly what MLB needs to happen. I mean, I was bummed. I thought it was going to be Yankees, Dodgers. Would have loved to see the Baby Bombers get a chance to have that type of series. But this type of game, the excitement, because the criticisms we've heard of baseball are they don't have enough fun. And did you watch all those home runs where they're sitting there big pimping down the baselines, watching their home runs? There's a ton of excitement out there. And the fact that you had all those home runs in that game. 8 total home runs in a game. That's the most in World Series history. 5 extra inning home runs, most in World Series history. So you saw a ton of offense. You saw a ton of excitement. Young players in this game. This is outstanding for baseball.
It was great for baseball, but my biggest takeaway is maybe a little more micro than macro, which is the Houston Astros saved their season. Going into the 9th inning with Kenley Jansen, one of, if not the best closer in baseball out there, down 3-2, I felt, okay, I mean, the Astros have had a good run. They were the 2017 World Series champs, predicted by Sports Illustrated 4 years ago, and they were going to come up just short because if the Astros had lost last night, they were not going to win this series. I can say that because you're not beating the Dodgers 4 out of 5 games. I think people have forgotten how unbelievable this Dodgers team was through 75% of the regular season. They were 91-36. That is on pace to break the all-time wins record in Major League Baseball. Then, after they got to 91-36 and they had everything wrapped up, basically, they played terribly for a month. But they're back playing Dodger baseball, at least 2017 Dodger baseball. And if they win last night, to me, they would have won the World Series. And so the Astros able to come through against Jansen. and then able to come through after what I thought was a gut punch in the 10th inning. When you go up 5-3, you come back in the 8th, you come back in the 9th, you go up 5-3 in the 10th, you think you've won the game. For the Dodgers to then tie it in the bottom of the 10th and the Astros respond again, we now have a World Series that I will be shocked if it doesn't go 6, most likely 7 games.
Do you like how Verlander carried that momentum in? That's why they got the win.
Oh, yeah.
He pitched great. But there were some things that I think I'm with you. I had the Dodgers in 5, and I thought they would get that game, not in the way that they got it. I thought Verlander would have pitched a gem, and they would have got a 2-1 victory or something like that. Didn't see that coming. But to show for them to believe that that bullpen is human, is beatable, because they snapped a couple streaks. This bullpen had pitched 28 scoreless innings in the postseason, consecutive scoreless innings. The Dodgers were 98-0 when they were winning after the 8th inning, and they were able to prove that they're vulnerable.
That doesn't say much. 98-0.
That's it. That's all they did.
98-0.
So now they come back. Now it matters which Sports Illustrated article you want to read. The one from several years ago that said they would win, or the one that said the Dodgers were the best team ever earlier season, which ironically was right before they fell apart.
Well, and it wasn't just the 98-0 going into the 9th inning with the lead. Kenley Jansen, Jeff Passan of Yahoo Sports wrote a tremendous article. I suggest everyone read it this morning about this baseball game. And he had a number in there that I couldn't believe. So the pitch that ended up that Jansen, where he gave up the game-tying home run in the 9th inning. Jansen has thrown that cutter in that location 67 times this year. 3 times it has gone for a base hit. Only once it has gone for extra bases. 0 times it's gone for a home run. That pitch, that location. The new age Mariano Rivera cutter is the Kenley Jansen cutter. It didn't matter that it was middle of the plate, belt high. He'd thrown it 67 times. No one had done damage with it. Until all of a sudden, to tie the World Series and save your season, the Astros hit a home run off it. There was the rush in his cut aspect to this. And that does, if I'm going to do one of my favorite things, which is second-guess managers, I was curious, and we talked about this yesterday, as to whether or not it was the right decision to pull Clayton Kershaw in Game 1. And people are going to say, well, what does that have to do with Game 2? It's not like the reliever Morrow or Jansen were tired. No, but the Astros got to see him, where they don't often get to see these guys. I do wonder a little bit if Jansen would have been more effective this game, or if Morrow, who gave up the leadoff double in the 8th inning and then got pulled, if he would have been more effective if you had let Kershaw pitch the rest of Game 1.
My takeaway was this was a very, very deflating loss for the Dodgers. And I know you're not a big guy. You like to look at the micro. You don't love the macro. You don't love the emotional aspect of it. You certainly don't love momentum. Danny and I learned that the hard way yesterday. That being said, so this Dodgers team, they played 4.5 hours. They went 11 innings. They used 9 pitchers to completely tax that bullpen. They showed their hand a little bit with all of it. And then to walk away, though, with a loss, and now to lose home field advantage, it's a big deal for a team that didn't have a ton of worries going in, that was coming off rest, that was coming off flying through their the whole of everything. And now all of a sudden, you go to Houston.
I don't necessarily believe in momentum, Jenna, in this respect, but I do believe in gut punches. And this was a gut punch for the Astros. I mean, sorry, for the Dodgers. Absolutely. This was a gut punch because you saw Clayton Kershaw win the 2-run home run to give him the lead early in the game. He celebrated in a way you don't typically see Clayton Kershaw celebrate, in the mid-innings of any game. And so I think the Astros thought, we got it. We're going to win this game the way we won the way we won Game 1, and if we're up 2-0, we're going to win the World Series. So I'm not saying they can't come back from anything like that, but this was a gut punch.
You know what's going to be a bigger gut punch is when they have to go to Houston now, because Houston is a completely different team. As good as they looked last night, they're even better than that we're playing at home. 6-0 in the playoffs at home with an ERA. Their pitching staff 1.17. They hit better. Everybody wakes up. The crowd is unbelievable. But I mean, typically baseball, the crowd doesn't come into play that much. Yeah. But when you're that comfortable at the plate and on the mound, that makes a huge difference.
And I don't know how much the crowd factors into it, but the odd thing that's the underrated just given aspect about baseball, about how you can tailor make your park to like the team you have, that there'd be like a football field, like we're going to play on a 90-yard field this week, and an NBA team, our 3-point line is going to be from 38 feet. Like a Minute Maid is intentionally or otherwise built perfectly for the types of hitters this Astros team has. I don't think it's been the crowd that's been carrying them to success at home. It's that ballpark is perfect for their batters, and now they've got a split, and like you said, they have home field.
If there's any doubt that this wasn't going to be in a good matchup, I think that was all quashed last night. This was a great game.
It's a great
game. And it was a great game with home runs based on the season that we had. I mean, we had an incredible home run season.
I think they
followed up in the postseason.
Just my theory, I think they juiced the balls this year. I think they absolutely livened up the
baseballs
because you've seen home run production up like we've never seen before.
You think that everyone just got better offensively?
Man, I think it's a hell of a conspiracy. So who are we accusing? The commissioner of baseball?
Why do you think it's that big a deal? I'm okay with it.
Well, we can have the juice balls discussion maybe another day. I don't buy it. But it was the most home runs in Major League Baseball history was this season.
LeBron James in his second game as point guard continued to shine. His teammates, not so much. James had a triple-double, scored 29 points, dished 13 assists, but he needs another player to also play basketball for this to work. Cavs lost to the Brooklyn Nets. Here's LeBron James after the game.
It's just taking us too much time to get into the game, like get into the flow of the game. Teams are playing with a faster pace than us to start the game, and we have to figure that out for sure.
It's a lot of pressure to put on LeBron, have to handle the ball for 40 minutes, and that's why I talk about playing the point guard position. It could wear you down, and unfortunately, that's all we have right now until D. Rose gets back.
Okay, guys, and Nick, I addressed this to you because I brought this up the other day. I thought the issue with the Cavs is they were going to have some trouble if this was just LeBron James and some other players. And you said as long as they tread water until about January or whenever they get Isaiah Thomas back, they're going to be fine. You saw this all unfold. You were sitting there last night. Does LeBron James have enough help around him to be able to get to the point where they're okay until Isaiah comes back?
Yes, they'll be okay to get to the point because 8 teams make the playoffs in each conference. The East isn't very good. But the reality is the Cavs right now are a mess. The Cavs right now are LeBron James, who is showing again in year 15. He's the best player in the world by a wide margin. He was an outstanding point guard again last night in his second start at point guard in over a decade. But he was the only player on the Cavs last night who was above average. And LeBron himself had 8 turnovers, and he was showing some frustration with that. If you watched the game, some of the frustration was LeBron, as point guard, was throwing what should have been perfect passes to empty space because guys weren't going where they should go. But the big issue with the Cavs right now is they've given up 17 three-pointers in each of their last 3 games against 3 bad opponents. I mean, they play the Chicago Bulls. They play the Brooklyn Nets, teams that should be competing for the #1 overall pick. Kevin Love has been okay. The second best player on the Cavs this year has either been Jeff Green or Kyle Korver. J.R. Smith, my pal, has been terrible. Derrick Rose hurt. Dwayne Wade didn't play last night. Jose Calderon is no longer an NBA player. The Cavs right now, absent of LeBron, would be the worst team in the league or on the very short list. And so, yeah, they need to play better. There is no question about that.
Since LeBron returned to Cleveland, has there ever been a season where you felt great about them at this point? Not really.
Probably.
It's been a disaster.
He called them the worst team in the East, which is like saying that your family isn't amazing. Do you understand how big the deal
But
is?
I think you hit on something specifically when you talk about their three-point defense. This is one of the older teams in the league. Is it the oldest? It might be
the oldest team
in the NBA. They know what's at stake. They know, which is very little in the East, they know they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're very invested. Defense is about energy and effort, and they know they don't have to put it out there right now. And more specifically, this roster that was out there last night is not the one that you're going to see with Rose out, with D. Wade taking the night off, without Isaiah Thomas. So I don't have that many concerns because we've been here before, and for the past few years, you've looked around the East and said, all right, which team can step up and knock them off? And nobody's able to do it. In large part because LeBron is enough to take any team in the East to the playoffs.
Well, if LeBron is going to carry them on the back this early in the season, he may not be this LeBron when that
so you know what he can do, though? He can
take
2 weeks off like he did a few years ago. They can do that. He has that luxury, which I do think should be considered in its greater overall legacy. And I know, you would rattle off the amount of appearances in the finals that he gets there. but it is at a time when it is easier than it's ever been for a team like, or a player like him who can carry a team straight to the finals. Like, it is a cakewalk for him to get to the playoffs every year, and a lot of times to get to the finals.
Okay, well, I think that's a separate.
That's a separate
discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. This first trip to the finals, they beat a Pistons team that had been an NBA champion. They ended the Celtics' big 3 run. The reason the Pacers, they were about to have a run, they didn't get to have one. The Bulls with an MVP, Derrick Rose, they were about to have a run, they didn't get to have one. So I think the ease of the East has been slightly overstated.
It would be more this is his second run with the Cavs.
Correct.
Yeah.
This run with the Cavs, and especially this offseason, where you saw Jimmy Butler go west, Paul George go west, saw a lot of the premier players in the East go west. And now we'll see what the Celtics, if they can create a real contender. But where the Cavs are right now is, it's simple. Like, let me give a number that I think will be jarring to people. I don't know if people know what player efficiency rating is. It's a stat John Hollinger invented. 15.0 is supposed to be your replacement level average NBA player. Anything above 25 is outstanding. Anything above 30 is the best players in league history. LeBron this year has a 32 PER. The only other guy on the Cavs who's above average is Kevin Love, and it's barely. J.R. Smith, who right now is their best shooting guard, has a negative PER, which I'm a stat nerd. I didn't know that was possible. I thought the lowest you could go, I thought was like quarterback rating. Zero. He has a negative 0.1 PER. Like, you've got Wade has a 7.6 PER, and he didn't play last night. So LeBron last night goes 29, 10, 13, 4 blocks on 60% shooting. And they're in a dogfight with the Nets. And people I know are going to focus on the fact that with down 2, LeBron missed the front end, the first of 2 free throws, then missed the second one on purpose, and say, the clutch thing with LeBron. But that's nonsense. That's not the story here. The story is, why was it a 2-point game with the Nets this early in the season? It's because right now it's LeBron and a bunch of other guys. And the person that I put that on, Kevin Love's got to be better. Kevin Love is a max contract, all-star level player. He is now finally getting to be the second best player on a team. He needs to excel in this spot, as opposed to, I think he's shooting 24% from 3, 42% from the field. That's not good enough.
And I think it's interesting because I think LeBron gets frustrated with the guys around him. He wants them to step up and be as invested as he is and as passionate about on the defensive end as he is. But I think Kevin Love is kind of who he is. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where Ty Lue said, should I play him in Toronto? I don't know if he's mentally tough. Basically alluded to that he didn't know if he was tough enough to handle playing on the road, which is crazy to say about one of your star players who was a 26 and 15 guy. Which is crazy. Wait. I thought, was it game 1 against Boston when he hit the big 3 to kind of that was kind of the game clinching 3? Yeah, I thought that was like, all right, Kevin Love's ready to step up and be that person, and yet you still see this incredibly up and down career that Kevin Love has had in Cleveland.
I wonder if somewhere Kyrie's going, that's interesting. Don't.
No, he's working on his handshakes.
Is that what he's working on?
Listen, Kyrie gets to have an opinion on the Cavs once he's shooting above 40% for the season.
How about Lonzo Ball? And how about the fact that they were able to knock off the trash-talking Wizards in overtime? Lonzo finished with only 6 points on 2 of 11 shooting, 10 assists, and 8 rebounds. But just to recap what I literally just said, the Lakers won. Danny, how should Lonzo feel about the win, despite an off night?
Ultimately, you won. Like, that's all that matters. I've had concerns about his shooting technique. I think he's going to have trouble getting it off. He didn't, of course, have the big game against Phoenix. But this is part of the learning process of being a rookie in the NBA. He's going to have some nights when he's great. He's going to have some when he's off. It's a grind. And I think they're, through an 82-game schedule, it's all part of learning how to be a pro. But he's young. I don't think it's going to affect him anyway, in any way, negative way whatsoever.
Guys, I'm so confused. I thought because of what Lavar said.
It's not going to be every night, Nick.
No, but it was last night in particular. Remember, we talked about it because he specifically said they don't lose twice in a week, and Marcin Gortat said he's going to eat him alive, and John Wall's coming from him, and Lonzo's dad has just made it impossible for him to succeed. And then I see that, it was John Wall. All-star caliber John Wall shot 31% from the field, didn't get to double-digit assists, and his team lost, had his lowest point output of the year. So is it maybe possible that the whole, I'm going at this guy, I'm going to show this guy, that it actually worked against the all-star point guard, John Wall?
We need to check in every couple of weeks because one game is a very small sample size.
Although when John Wall was guarding him one-on-one, 0 points for Lonzo Ball, 0 assists.
What? Absolutely. But it was.
There you go.
Bam.
There's some numbers for the numbers guy.
It's the flip side that I'm talking about. It's John. No. It's John Wall's offense, I think, forcing the issue, and that's typically not the player he is. John Wall is a guy that one of the reasons he is the best point guard in the Eastern Conference, I think I'm comfortable saying that.
Oh, man. You know what, though? Let me interrupt you. I just want to give him some props.
Who's him?
Lonzo. 19 years old, and to handle the pressure that he handles it with grace.
Which is created by his dad. That's the thing. Like, I want Lonzo to succeed so badly, and I want his dad to shut up so badly.
Right.
Like, I want those two things, but I don't think one of them's going to happen.
Well, listen, we don't have to relitigate this. What I will say about Lavar Ball is this. Lavar Ball being himself has helped get his son to this place. The idea that when Lonzo was 9 years old, he told everyone in the neighborhood, my son is going to go to UCLA. My son's going to be a top pick in the NBA draft. My son's going to play for the Lakers. He then lived his life accordingly, was proven correct on all 3 points. The idea that when you are proven right, you will then drastically change your behavior. If Lonzo ended up going to UC Santa Barbara, was undrafted, and was, playing in the D League right now, then maybe Lavar changes. But Lavar, I think, justifiably thinks, what I've done thus far has worked out for my son.
You can't go calling his predictions great when he also has said he's better than Steph Curry, better than LeBron. Like, he's gone over the top, and he makes like 10 predictions a day. So of course he's going to hit on some of them.
Those were long shot predictions when he's 9 years old, saying my kid's going to do all these things.
Yeah, I just, again, as the father of a professional athlete, I would never put my son in that position. I think it's selfish. I think it draws attention that your son doesn't need. But that's me.
Welcome back to First Things First. Another football player joins us. Mark Schlereth on the set.
What up,
nice to
Sting?
see you.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you
Looking
guys.
good.
How's everybody doing? Yeah.
Everybody's good.
We need you here because we're going to get contentious. We're going to Things are going to happen. Things are going to happen very soon. We're talking Cam Newton. You may remember Cam had an incident with a reporter a few weeks ago when he said it's funny to hear a female talk about routes. You may also remember he skipped last week's media session for an undisclosed reason. And then this week, you won't need to remember because I'm about to tell you, the third time is a charm. Take a listen.
Does this offense, and I know you had several at Detroit, New England, do you think you guys have the wherewithal to do that consistently week in and week out?
Next question. Thank you.
Probably good.
Listen, I've sat in so many press conferences like that. That is the worst thing you could do. You walk away from a question that you do not like or a series of questions you do not like because you don't want to answer it. First, I'll ask your reaction. What was your reaction to Cam Newton's behavior?
He's a petulant child. That's what my reaction is. He's a petulant child, and that is part of what you're required to do. And I'll get a bunch of people on Twitter say, well, you're a hypocrite because when you were in Denver, the offensive line didn't talk to the media, and that's a bunch of bunk. We were never quoted by the media. I talk to the media every day. Some of my best buddies were in the media.
You're just on deep background?
Right. I was the anonymous source. Right?
That might be worse than what Cam did.
Hold on a second.
No, I was not an anonymous source. But I had great relationships with all those guys. You ask any of those guys that covered us. Great relationships. It was a game that we played. But that is part and parcel of your responsibility as an NFL quarterback. And the lack of maturity, if you're going to, and I've said this many, many times about Cam, I wish that I played with the childlike enthusiasm that he plays with, the joy that he seems to play with, because I was miserable playing. Miserable. I love the game, but I was miserable. But you know what? Those press conferences, the way you behave in those press conferences, it's just unacceptable. And you just come off as such a spoiled brat. And I'm telling you what, the lack of respect that you show those people that are trying to do their jobs, that to me is a situation where it plays onto the field. I look at it and say, no wonder you haven't matured as a drop-back quarterback, because you're not mature enough to handle a question that's a legitimate question. Where are the big plays in your offense the last couple of weeks? There's nothing wrong with that question.
Nick, a couple weeks ago, after Cam Newton had that whole issue with the female reporter, he went on Twitter, right? And he did like a whole like mea culpa, like, hey, listen, I'm sorry. I get it. I apologize. Like, I need to be a better person. I this, I that. And he said I 100 times, not we. It was all on me, whatever, whatever. Then he comes back and he does this. This is when I say stuff like, I want to see it, I don't want to hear it. This is what I mean.
This
and he's not
Jenna, this was the final part of his apology. He was trying to make it clear. You guys think I'm only a jerk to the female Latino reporters. I'm going to be a jerk to the old white male reporters, too. I'm going to be an equal opportunity jerk to all the media members. Don't make this a race or gender thing.
I know, but you said, as an NFL quarterback, not just as an NFL quarterback, you are the face of this franchise.
Well, that's
you
why
are the leader of this. You are the franchise. There is no Panthers team this year without you.
Well, I think that is interesting because I think that's part of his frustration. But before I explain some of the frustration, I want to make this clear. Everything you guys are saying is correct. Like, with no disrespect to you or your position group, one of the reasons it's okay the offensive lineman didn't talk is because people didn't really want to talk to the offensive lineman. But if John Elway didn't talk, it's a problem. Like, the quarterback... One of the reasons the quarterback gets to make the most money, gets to have the endorsements, is because there are added responsibilities.
Sure.
It's Deshaun Kaiser, the rookie quarterback for the Browns. He was out till 1 in the morning Friday night. Friday night, a lot of NFL players go out. It's one of the 2 nights of the week, Friday night and Monday night, where you can actually go out. But he's the quarterback, so it's viewed differently. Cam, of course, has to know this, right? So he shouldn't act like that. I am not justifying that. I am not justifying the behavior. What I do believe, though, is that how Cam acts in a press conference has nothing to do with how he's going to play on Sunday. Like that we saw after he walked out of the press conference and had that whole controversy, had his best game of the year. Like I don't think they're correlated as far as his performance. There might be some character traits that lead to spotty performance that also lead to his immaturity at the press conference. But I don't think you can be like, bad press conference this week. It makes the Panthers' job harder this week. Here's where I would disagree
with you, and we talked about this yesterday with Greg Jennings. Because you have to, at some point in your career, and I feel like, sometimes I feel like an old man. Like I feel like my dad, the way he used to talk to me. And in large part is because I want Cam to get it. We're talking about probably the most physically gifted quarterback we've seen in NFL history. When you put the combination of his body, his arm strength, and his ability to run. Like, we can just say that. We can agree on that, right?
Correct.
So he has the potential to be the best ever, and he's not even coming close to realizing it. So the part about being a professional, if he's showing this immaturity at 28 now, like you're supposed to grow up at some time. You excuse it if it's your first couple years in the league. At 28, you should realize what it takes. I think this is a sign that all across the board, he doesn't get what it is to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL.
It's the same mistake over and over. And here's what I would tell you about that whole, it doesn't affect you on the football field. Bulletin board material. Have you ever heard of anybody sitting during the course of a game going, oh, I can't believe they said that to, No, absolutely not. When the ball's kicked off, you know what you do? You play football. Where bulletin board material works for you as a player is it heightens your awareness to the team that you're playing, and the guys that maybe aren't as professional as they need to be, it heightens their awareness. And you know what ultimately happens? You prep a little harder, you practice a little better, and you have these details going on. What does he have to do today now? He's going to have to sit down with Ron Rivera. He's going to have to take time away from his preparation to say, why do you keep acting like a petulant child? And every other teammate's going to have to answer the same damn question. It's going to take away from their preparation. And that's where all of a sudden it can affect your football team. And I know for myself, if I'm an offensive lineman and I got to answer questions about Danny Cannell acting like a petulant child and how irritating that is to me, and I'm a professional, it bothered the hell out of me in that locker room.
Well, what's interesting then, following that line of logic, because I watched the whole press conference, because I was curious. Because it was 7 minutes that he had spoken for.
You watched the entire thing?
Well, I wanted to find this out.
It was a joke. It was only 7 minutes, then he left.
Right. Well, these things aren't usually 20 minutes. They're usually somewhere between 7 to 15. I wanted to find out if he had been asked that same question 5 different times. Why can't you get big plays? What happened to the big plays?
Right.
Sure, but then at least the next question part would have, it's like an asked and answered. But he hadn't been. What he was asked about a bunch was the running game and Christian McCaffrey. And he was asked about McCaffrey once, and he started to answer, and then he said, let me stop, said it out loud, let me stop, and then gave, like, he's a dynamic player, and of course we want to get him the ball. Like, he went into his script.
Right.
I think Cam is frustrated that right now the Panthers are the worst running team in football. Like, if you remove Cam's running, as far as what their running backs, Dustin looked it up for me this morning. Appreciate it, Dustin. They're averaging 2.8 yards per carry, their running backs. That's last in the NFL. Their running backs have no touchdowns. That's last in the NFL. They're averaging less than 60 yards per game from their running backs. That's second to last in the NFL. So I think what we saw yesterday, and again, you've got to know, just answer the question, even if you give a nonsense answer, that he's being asked about, hey, you got to get McCaffrey the ball. He's this dynamic player. And he knows, well, McCaffrey's been one of the least productive runners in football. And then you guys are asking me about big plays. Our issue is not big plays. Our issue is we're in 3rd and 7.5 every single time, bottom 12 in the league on 3rd down, because we can't run the football.
You know what, then say, hey, it's not about the big plays.
Yeah.
Right.
Say anything.
Just say it.
Anything.
Just answer it. If he knows that, then have him say it. You know, can you talk to him? Give him a call.
Or
tell him
just spew more cliches. Like, just go through the motions. Anything but walking off.
Bill Belichick.
Can I ask a question about that? I know we're supposed to break. I got to ask this question.
I don't want to get in trouble.
Is that the just give the cliche answer?
Mm-hmm.
That is preferred? I'm just curious.
So walking off the set and disrespecting
Yes, that doesn't get you. That doesn't get you media attention. That doesn't get you media asking your teammates about it. That doesn't get a sit
we
down.
wouldn't be having this conversation if he said, "Hey, you're right. We've got to find a way to get more big plays."
Of course, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But then maybe it's a bigger conversation.
Look.
Why do we have the press conferences? Why? To get actual information. If the hack of the press conference is to say the same 4 cliches, then the press conferences are useless.
Fine,
we
there
got
shouldn't be
actual
any press
information.
conferences in New England.
If you ask any player, they'll tell you the press conferences are useless. And if the coaches would teach players how to do that, I mean, remember when Bill O'Brien was on Hard Knocks and he was saying, give them nothing, but you still have to play the game.
Welcome back to First Things First. So the Jaguars are 4-3 on the season, thanks in part to the best pass defense in football. One important part of that secondary is second-year corner Jalen Ramsey. And, oh, wow, what a coincidence. He joins the show. We didn't even realize that when I didn't even know you were sitting there when I was. That's so funny that happened.
It's good to see a fellow Seminole in here, too,
I'm
you
sure.
know? We got to stick together.
Former college athletes, like you guys, you never say like, oh, remember when they served breadsticks like that second year, freshman year? Like those breadsticks, they were like microwaved, right?
Right.
I don't know. No one knows what you're talking about, Jenna.
What I'm talking about. It's different when, no,
you went to Olive Garden last night?
No, if a girl came up to me and said, hey, like I went to Binghamton. You did go to Binghamton. Do you remember that spot? But guys don't do that. You guys had a handshake that almost blew Jalen off the thing, and you were very brosy. Anyway, welcome to New York.
Appreciate you having me.
How's New York been to you in the last couple of days? You enjoying it?
Yeah, it's been fun. Got to go
The
to
basketball game last night, saw you there.
Yeah, got to go to a little basketball game.
Sure.
See LeBron
Who's your
in
NBA
action.
squad?
OKC.
It is.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. You like the changes
That's my
they
squad.
made?
Yeah.
bring
I'm
in
loving the
Melo?
changes. Melo, PG, MVP.
Nice.
I think they're going to do the thing this year. Maybe.
Very good. Okay, so you guys have a bye this week.
Yes, ma'am.
Your team, a little surprised by, I mean, I'm sure you guys knew where you were going to go, but I think you're surprising a lot of people in the league with this defense and the way you guys are playing. How does it feel? Like, how do you guys feel where you are in the season right now and now coming off the break and off the bye, where you guys are heading?
We feel good coming off the bye with a winning record, with a win last week against the Colts, a division win, tied for first in our division. So we feel good, but we know we have a lot of work to do still, but everybody's committed, everybody's ready. We're going to get it done.
What's the biggest jump for you from year 1 to year 2? Because when you're the 5th overall pick and you have to go through the draft process, you're doing interviews, then you go get drafted, you get to Jacksonville. It's like everything's a whirlwind, right?
Yeah.
And then you have time to kind of catch your breath a little bit. What's been the biggest improvement you've made from year 1 to year 2?
Working on my body, working on myself more so than anything. Learning how to take care of my body, learning what to eat, learning what not to eat, learning the right treatments that make my body feel good. That's been my biggest thing. That's been huge for me. And then just learning how to study film better. That's also been
How
good.
bad was it, the diet? Like, were you McDonald's?
Hey,
Like,
Yeah,
was
you
that
had to
bad?
spend
Like,
hell.
daily
bad,
basis?
man.
Or like, how bad?
It was like fast food on a daily basis.
So would you cut it down to once a week now?
Yeah, I still have a day that I
Yeah,
that I
cheat
get
day.
it in.
Why does that work in college, but it doesn't work in the NFL?
Honestly, I mean, everybody's a grown man in the NFL. Everybody's like professional, so they know the right things to do to kind of get themselves the edge every week. So I want that edge as well.
And sometimes it's out. I mean, a lot of these guys broke in college. Like, you know what I mean? You can't
Yeah,
hire a
that's why you can't-
nutritionist. You
Right.
can't. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to eat ramen noodles like a lot of college students
Right.
do. And so,
Yeah.
All right. So I want to talk about your path a little bit because we were talking off the air about your cornerback counterpart, AJ Bouye.
Yeah.
Very different path. This was a guy when I was in Houston. They didn't know if he was going to make the team. He was a fringe guy, undrafted free agent,
crazy.
and just signed a huge contract this offseason with Jacksonville. Your path is different.
Yeah.
You were a star in high school. You were a star at Florida State. You were the 5th overall pick of a loaded draft, by the way. Goff, Wentz, number 3, Joey Bosa, number 4, Ezekiel Elliott, number 5, Jalen Ramsey. At what age did you first think, or did people start to first tell you, you might be able to be a pro athlete?
Man, I don't really know. I mean, ever since I started playing football at like the age of 4, that was my dream. That was always my dream.
4.
Yeah, I started real early. I got older brothers, older cousins. I wanted to get in it real quick because they were in it. So, I mean, I was just blessed to be talented and be the best on my team, all in Pee Wee and growing up, middle school, high school.
When did people start talking to you about it? Maybe you always believed it, but when was the first time a grown-up, when you were a kid, said to you can do this professionally?
I mean, I think growing up told me, you know, in Little League, like, oh, he'll be great one day, but I don't think they really meant it. I just think they was like, it's a little kid. It's balling out here on these other little kids. I'm not sure, man. I really don't know. I think I really started to believe it when I got to college.
Was there ever a moment along the way where you thought it wasn't going to happen, or it looked like you weren't going to make it in that regard?
Yeah, it was setbacks. It was things that happened that, you know, had me down in the dumps sometimes. A few injuries. I had an injury in high school, and then I was blessed not to have injuries in college, but I had a couple bad games in college that made me feel like, dang, maybe I'm not that dude who I should be. And then, of course, I got hurt at the beginning, right after I got drafted, so it was another setback. But, you know, I keep God first, and I keep it pushing.
Besides the diet and just sort of learning the ropes, how comfortable do you feel and how good do you feel that you get the first year out of your way and now you get to come in and there are guys younger than you that are still learning the system and you got a little bit of experience under your belt, especially with the team, which is really important. You know these coaches, you know the stadium, you know the ins and outs. Like those are the intangibles that are different than just being on the field. That's a big deal. I'm sure that really helps your comfort level as well.
Yeah, exactly. Just like you said, it's just helping with my comfort level. Everything's just smooth for me now. I'm very comfortable with everything, comfortable with the city, comfortable with the stadium, the people I'm surrounded with, the people, you know, who help me out. So I can just focus on the main thing, which is for me.
But does that
football.
help football? Like, does any of that stuff really help you on the field?
Yeah, takes a lot off your mind. So when you get on that field, all you got to focus on is football.
You know what I would have changed my diet if I was on that team? The minute I saw Calais Campbell, Ngakoue, Leonard Fournette, like you got some dudes in that locker room. Who's the best athlete on the Jacksonville Jaguars? And you can't say yourself. You better say yourself, but you can't say yourself.
Yeah, man, you know, I got to stick with the DBs, so I'm gonna go with one of the DBs, either AJ, Aaron Colvin, Deshaun Gibson, or Barry Church.
You haven't had to tackle.
Hold on. That's lies. Like the answer's Calais, right?
Come on now.
Come on, Calais is a
He's
freak.
legit 6'8" too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
Like
legit the biggest dude on the team. For real.
And he
can run.
sounds like he sounds like a very happy monster. Like if you've heard him talk. Like
laugh.
When you saw this offseason that the team was going to sign him, did that? I mean, that's a real commitment. They spent money on AJ. They spent money on Calais. Like, all right, we are not just spending the 5th overall pick on defense. We're going to spend real dollars on defense. What was your reaction when you saw that?
We about to be real good this year. That's it. That's all I thought. I was like, we got AJ. I was like, it's really on now. Teams got to throw it somewhere. I don't know where they're gonna throw it. Then we got Calais, and we like, man, we get to sit on some routes now. So yeah, I mean, everybody, it's all coming together. Telvin just got paid.
Yeah.
So this defense is coming along, man.
How much does it hurt you? Because it hurts me to see Florida State 2-4, struggling as bad as it gets in Tallahassee. How tough is that to watch?
That's tough. They got to get to a bowl game. I think they got 5 games left. They need to win 4 of them. Boston College tomorrow.
Yep.
And
as long as they beat the Gators, it's all good, right?
They got to run. They got to run the table, man.
Yeah.
We got 20 seconds. Best wide receiver you've gone up against?
Antonio Brown.
How come?
His hands are crazy. His routes are crazy. Ultimate competitor.
Best wide receiver you wish you could have gone up against?
Yeah, he's not here, so you can't ask him. Hall of Fame hands.
Yeah. I mean, one day I want to go up against, Odell. I want to go up against Julio.
Sure.
Those guys in the league, the top guys who are still in the league right now who I've not had a chance to go up against yet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, well, Jalen, thank you so much for
I
hanging out with
appreciate
us.
y'all.
Good luck.
Amen.
Much success to you. We really appreciate you stopping by. Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.